Good morning, everyone. Welcome. This is our Zoom in session with NBC reporter Melissa Colorado, who's also a Brooklyn College alum. So we're going to get to know her and her experiences, and really excited to have her here. So my name is Michael Sarro. I'm the Assistant Director for Career and Employer Engagement at Magner Center. I'm also the counselor for the School of Visual Media and Performing Arts. So if you are TV, radio, film, art, music, theater, you can come and see me. I overlap with marketing as well. So that is my primary focus. And I also oversee our alumni mentoring program. And I have Alexandra Popova, aka Sasha, who is my assistant with the alumni mentoring program. So she is here as well. So if you do have any interest in the alumni mentoring program, you can email us. We'll put our emails in the chat. Let's just hop right into it. Melissa Colorado, thank you so much for joining us. Brooklyn College alum, reporter here at NBC New York.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me. I'm so excited to hear your questions. I guess I'll start with my background. I'm from Elmhurst, Queens. I went to Brooklyn College many years ago. I don't even want to date myself because I feel like I'm just getting older and older. But I remember taking a great class with Dr. Barbara Nevins-Taylor. She was a former Fox 5 reporter, and I spent many nights in the lab, just putting our packages together, and that was an amazing experience. And I loved Brooklyn College because, you know what, it was affordable. I got the classes I needed to take under my belt, and I just remember back in the day, I would structure all my classes to be on Tuesdays or Thursdays or Mondays and Wednesdays, and then the other 2 days I would just be in the city interning. And that was really the value that I really appreciate Brooklyn College now, because you were there to get your work done, get your stuff done, and then on the other days of the week, intern. And that's where I really was able to learn a lot. And I interned at a couple of stations. I was at Fox 5, and Emma Bowen. I was part of the Emma Bowen Foundation. I don't know if that rings a bell to anybody, but it's a great organization. And from there, I ended up at WNBC as an intern. I went to the network as an intern. But I mean, really, what I'm trying to get here is intern as much as you can. If TV is what you want to do, if media is what you want to do, obviously everything is digital now, and it's going to continue to be streaming heavy. But even if you want to go into PR, public relations, or if you want to go more into entertainment, lifestyle, you guys are in the media capital of the world. Yes, LA is more of the entertainment side. If you want to, write for shows, if you want to act or be on more entertainment, actual, movies and what have you, LA might be the place to be, but you're in great hands. You're in a great place. And so really, that's all I can say. Just intern as much as you can, get that valuable experience. If you can score an internship that pays, that's great. That's amazing. Those are a little harder to come by, but I can't emphasize enough. Like, that's really how I got, I got the road was paid for me in a way, and it was thanks to those internships.
Yeah, thank you so much. I mean, yeah, internships super important for anybody right now that's a student. You really have to do 1 or 2 internships. So if you are doing an internship and it's unpaid, or you've landed an internship and it's unpaid, just keep in mind, Magner Center has a stipend award. I will say Emma Bowen Foundation is fantastic. We'll try to put the link in the chat. So thank you for mentioning Emma Bowen. That's a really great program. And then there's also IRTS, which is a really great one, started by Scott Herman, an alum of Brooklyn College. So keep that in mind as well. Melissa, what inspired you to want to work in journalism and broadcast journalism, being a reporter?
I was part of my high school paper. I was just always watching the news. I was kind of was a newsie in that way. But it was thanks to the Emma Bowen Foundation. I out of high school, I just had I was just in this rush of just applying to scholarships, applying to programs. And thanks to the Emma Bowen Foundation, they hooked me up with an internship, paid internship right out of high school. So between the summer of high school and college, I was already quote unquote working, but I was interning for A Good Day New York. So just, I had to wake up 3 a.m. to get to Fox 5. And the jobs were pretty print out scripts, give them to the anchors, which doesn't exist anymore because it's all the iPads. and like bring in, they would have guests because the show was so long. And so I remember I saw Pitbull one time and I was like, here, Mr. Pitbull, come to the green room. Just like little stuff like that. But you're in that environment, you are in the studio, and you figure out, okay, that job, don't want that job. That job looks super stressful and that lady looks always tired. And then that job looks really interesting. I want to get to know more about what that person does. And so with that experience, you're able to almost process of elimination what you want, what you would like to pursue. And obviously the earlier you start, because time is money, especially in this industry, the better off you are, because you're figuring out, okay, this is what I want to do. And you find a mentor and they can really kind of guide you and answer any questions. But really, it was almost process of elimination for me. By having that exposure, having that access so early, I got to figure out, okay, this is the job I want. I think what they're doing is interesting. And there's a part of me, especially now with working from home and everything, it's hard for me to work from home. I've just been trained from the get-go. You're out in the field. It's even hard for me I don't remember the last time I had an office. I've never had an office. So maybe things will change in like 10 years. But what I'm saying is there's always part of me that's like, I don't like having four walls. I have to be out in the field. It has its challenges, trust me, especially when the pandemic happened. It was like, oh my God. But it depends on what your personality is. If you're a people person, if you're, you're more data driven, if you like the creative and control aspect of being a producer, then it really depends. But you have to have that exposure, because you're not going to know what you really want until you're watching adults right there doing the grunt work and seeing what it takes.
That's a very good point. Again, doing the internship helps you make an informed decision about your particular career path. Melissa, is there a specific mentor that sticks out to you in your mind that kind of helped you along the way?
Yeah, Katie Tur, she's on MSNBC right now. She used to be a reporter at WNBC, and she just like I would show up on weekends. Like, this was how hardcore intern I was. I would show up on Saturdays and Sundays, and those were the days that she worked. And the great thing, if you can, I don't know how rules are now with COVID and everything, but back then, I mean, I would ride in the back of live trucks, and there was no seatbelt in for me. So there was like some definitely shady stuff that was going on, in the sense of like, I was allowed to do certain things, but I think things have changed now. But it was just because I was there all the time. And so she just like, you know what, come on over. And I would hop in the live truck with her. She was on the front, the camera guys driving, and she would just, talk to me. And she was the youngest reporter there. So, and I would obviously help her log, help her, grab her coffee and stuff like that. But because it is, look, now as a reporter, it is kind of having an extra person that you kind of have to manage and kind of be mindful of. It is an extra thing to have on your to-do list, if you will. So I do appreciate that. But, you just kind of have to find the people that you're gravitating towards, you like their style, and shadow them as much as you can. And I was really lucky. Katie Tur was that person for me. She has a new book out. She was great. When they're younger and they kind of know, all right, this is what it takes, they'll kind of give you, they understand where you're coming from. But that's not to say that older reporters aren't going to give you the time of day, but you can, there's certain personalities that are a little bit harder to form that relationship with. But if you find someone who is like, you know what, I like your drive, I see your hard work ethic, and you're doing favors for them, like you're logging stuff for them, you're doing the logging long interviews that are kind of a pain in the butt to do, but you're an intern, that's what you got to do. They'll appreciate that. Hopefully they'll appreciate that. And so Katie Tur was that person for me, and obviously she's doing great things right now.
It's amazing. Yeah, running the alumni mentoring program is just important to get students to meet those professionals that are out there in the field. Yeah. And you did the right thing. I mean, again, you have to be in the right place at the right time, and you have to be out there. The hustle is real, and especially in this industry. So can you give us some thoughts on the New York market, and then how did you end up in San Francisco? You were in San Francisco for 7 years.
I've been all over the place. I've been around the block being the United States. So after I was interning, I got very lucky, got a job at News 12 Westchester. which is, yeah, obviously I had to buy a car, but I was still living with my parents because I couldn't afford a car and rent, especially with your first media job. We can go on about how things are changing now, but let's just start with what I did. So I went to News 12 Westchester. I was freelancing there. It was great place to learn to make those mistakes and figure out your style and get into the process of, okay, this is how I'm writing a package, got to get a VOSAT done, learning how to edit on Final Cut or what have you. I don't know what you guys use. You guys use Final Cut?
A lot of them use Premiere. Yeah, you guys put it in the chat what you use, but I've been seeing Premiere a lot more than Final Cut.
Okay. Stations use Premiere a lot. IRTS is another popular one, but just learning all that stuff. And I was really lucky. I didn't have to MMJ at News 12 Westchester, which things have changed. But after News 12 Westchester, I felt like I wasn't getting enough live experience. And I just remember there was like a big murder on a weekend in some weird town. I don't even remember the town, but I remember this big, reporter from Channel 2 was there at the same live shot as me. And I'm like, oh my God, he's a big deal. I've been watching him forever. And I just didn't feel confident. And that was like my first real live shot because I wasn't getting that experience. And so I was like, you know what? I need to go to a different market. I need to go to a different place, cut the umbilical cord in a way because I was still living with my parents. And so I ended up going to Albuquerque, New Mexico. Really tough for me. There was a huge culture shock. Albuquerque, if you've seen Breaking Bad, that's it. It was a great place to learn. I got live shot experience, you name it. And I was working with photographers as well. So I didn't have to MMJ. So that was also a big plus. But, the experience of being out on your own, paying rent, just doing all this stuff. Because I'm an only child. I love my parents, but there comes a point where I'm like, I had to figure things out on my own. That was Albuquerque for me. It was tough. And then I got I didn't think I was going to end up in Minnesota. No, I'm not a Vikings fan, not the cold. An opportunity came out of nowhere for KARE 11, which is a really good station. If you guys know who Boyd Hubert is, you should Google him. He is like one of the best storytellers. Just go on YouTube, Google KARE 11 Boyd Hubert, and one of those stories will make you cry. He's a really, really good writer. So this was a station that was all about storytelling. So here in New York, we're all about crime and like who got slashed on the subway. Over there, they're very, feature forward. They love their gnats. They're really good shooters. And so I was on the morning show there. And if you watch the morning shows, it's you're live a lot. And you get to do some fun stuff. I got to do a lot of fun, show my personality a bit. We were live from the Mall of America all the time, the Minnesota State Fair. But that was a good muscle for me to kind of work out, which is the storytelling aspect. That it's not all about police saying this and which is what we see a lot in New York, LA, Chicago, but just more storytelling, more the stories that have maybe don't have a whole lot of meat, but there is definitely, it's the stories that stick with you. It's the stories that get shared a lot because they make you feel good. And so that was a great experience. And I got to anchor there as well. And it was, I love the people. The people were amazing. And from there, and this was pre-George Floyd. George Floyd changed everything for the Minnesota market. So I just want to say that, like it has changed a lot. So, but anyway, this was 2018. And then I went to the Bay Area. I was in Oakland. I lived in Oakland. Oakland is intense. I love Oakland from the bottom of my heart, but there's a whole other security issue. I don't need to go into it, but we had a really big security situation over there where I would have to work with a camera guy, obviously, and a security guard because we were getting targeted because they know that we've got expensive cameras, expensive laptops, tripods, what have you. So that was a different element that I was like, okay, this is something. But we covered wildfires, and wildfires is a natural disaster that is very, very difficult because you just see utter devastation. It is dangerous. We had a couple of close calls, but that is just a different layer of reporting that an experience that comes with living in California or the Pacific Northwest. And we don't really see a lot here in New York, knock on wood, but wildfires are intense, and we covered many of them. So yeah, and then now I'm here, back home. It's exciting. It's, this is home. It's always going to be home. It's great to explore different parts of the city that I didn't know so well. And now I'm like, wow, things have changed. Gentrification, it's everywhere, but it's really interesting to be in parts of Brooklyn where I'm like, oh my God, Bed-Stuy was not like this. Bushwick was not like this back in my day.
As aspiring journalists, which I think most of the people that are here are aspiring to be, this is really great information to kind of do your research, right? And look into things. And from what I'm hearing, Melissa, I mean, it sounds like you had, you gained a wealth of experience going across the country in all those different markets and those different areas, and it's all very different.
Yeah, so I love New York, which is, it's tough to do in your 20s because, and I think there's something to be said about New York where we think we are the best, and we are the best. We have the best of everything, but it is a bubble, and you don't have to leave it. I'm not saying you have to, but if you do choose to leave it, you will gain a sense of appreciation for other things, whether it's the outdoors, or whether it's quiet, and just see how people live their lives. I really got that experience in New Mexico. When I was growing up, only 2 people had guns, cops and criminals. You go to New Mexico and you're like, oh, wow, I understand why you would need a weapon. Because you are out there. They are out there. The sheriff's office is not going to show up until 20 minutes after if you need help. So that was an interest, just seeing the different conversations and seeing how you've got these stereotypes in your mind growing up here, and just because people look a certain way or sound a certain way, that doesn't mean that they feel a certain way towards you or what have you, or that stuff. And Minnesota was really interesting. I'm always used to, I'm like 5'5". So I feel like I'm average height. Over there, everyone's like a Viking. These people are tall, they're blonde, they're corn-fed, but they were amazing. They really embraced me. And there was a lot of like, oh, you're from New York, so you give it to them straight. And over there, they're very nice, and there's a lot of passive aggressiveness, but you just kind of tell them, like, New Yorkers are kind, just get to the point, don't waste my time, and so there was a lot of exchange of information and just like, breaking down the stereotypes. But also, I was in the Bay Area when George Floyd, all that was unfolding, and it was just interesting because it's like you could just see all of the social inequalities, the things that were boiling, and it was just a matter of time. And it happened. And Minneapolis was the epicenter of all that. So that was fascinating, not being there, but watching from afar. And the same thing with the pandemic. I was in the Bay Area, but the epicenter was New York. And so now that I'm here, I don't know what next big story is going to happen where we're going to be the epicenter, because New York City, it's always something here.
Right. When I meet with students and you guys are like, all right, what should I work on? How do I get involved? I meet with a lot of students who are just starting out. Maybe they just took mass media, let's say. I think that's like one of the first classes you're supposed to take. I have to tell students, like, listen, go out there and create your own content. Go out there. This is New York City. There's plenty of stories to cover. Go out there and be a bit of an entrepreneur for yourself. I want to tie this into something that you had said, Melissa, which is MMJ. For those that don't know, I'm sure the students should know, but MMJ, can you describe what that is exactly?
Yeah, so multimedia journalist. You've seen News 12 reporters do it. I don't know if you guys have seen News 12 reporters out in the field, but it's usually a reporter, and they're doing everything. They're the camera person, they are setting up the shots, they're editing it together in their car, or if they're going back to the station. And that is the norm nowadays, because you guys know all this, but everything is digital now. No one's watching TV, or the people that are watching TV, that generation is going to die out in like 20, 30 years. And that sounds horrible, but it's the truth. That's why you're seeing NBC News now with the streaming, ABC Live with the streaming, everybody's streaming. The challenge now is, how do we monetize that to the point where we can continue to fund the big stories, and continue to fund, more people. So reporters can work with photographers, because it's all very expensive. So that's MMJing. That's typically how people start off in the business. You're doing everything yourself. It is stressful. You're doing the job of 3 people, really. And I think there is a huge conversation going on right now. And it's large in part to the generation that's not my generation. It's the Gen Z generation, where they're advocating for themselves. Mental health is important. Burnout is something that is definitely rampant in our industry. And so I'm hoping things change, because back when I was starting out, MMJs, they look down upon. They're like, okay, they're overworked, they're young, they're not being paid well. So I'm hoping that companies, the Next Stars and the Sinclairs of the world, really give them their appreciation, because there's younger people, you guys, that are just like, I don't know if I want to do all that for that little pay, all that hustle. And these companies are just, it's inflation going up. So I guess what I'm saying is, I'm really hoping the conversation is started. You see little things like, was it Gray that came out with like, we're increasing the pay for the, $18 an hour, but it's got to get better than that, because we are going to enter a situation where the youth, you guys, are not going to want to enter the industry, because it's just not worth it as far as money, time off, PTO, all that. And I think back in my day, it was kind of grilled into us, you don't get into this industry for the money. You got to work your butt off the first 5 years, and then, good things will follow. The good jobs will be provided. But nowadays, I think people are just getting fed up with that. And then, the Great Resignation happened, just showing everybody like, you can work from home. There are other jobs out there where you can have more of a work-life balance. And I think with digital and social media, that's also changing. That's changing as well. So hopefully you guys don't have to deal with the stuff that we had to deal with off the top in the beginning, because it was a grind. And that's where a lot of people just said, I'm going to PR. I'm going to do something a lot easier. I'm going to do real estate or something, because this is just not worth it. Because I made a lot of sacrifices to get to this point. Not going to lie. It was not easy off the top, but here we are. So it could be worse. Yeah.
No, it's all good points. And again, the industry is changing and everything's changing. So I'm always telling students, be adaptable to all these things as well. Always. What's your day-to-day like now then, in terms of covering stories, or maybe even pitching story? Like what's your day-to-day like?
Well, like everybody, I look at this the first thing in the morning. I see we get so many emails. It's ridiculous. We get so many emails. I just look through the emails. I have to have my pitches in. Story pitches are basically like what ideas. What are your story pitches? What do you want to work on? What did you see something on social media that could turn it into a story? Did a person that you were trying to reach out to a week ago finally get back to you and say, yep, I'm ready for that interview? Stuff of that nature. What's happening in the day that you want to tell your managers during the morning call. They'll read out your pitch. They don't read out the pitches, otherwise it would take too long. But basically, I got to get those in around 8-ish, 8:30, the latest. So by 9 o'clock, we have a conference call. So everyone's on the call, all the reporters, all the managers, and basically we have our managing editor. He tells us, all right, Melissa, you're going to be in the Bronx today. You're going to meet up with so-and-so, or you're going to be in Long Island or Far Rockaway, Queens, or what have you. And from there, it's just meeting up with the photographer, getting those interviews. If there's a press conference, we attend that press conference. And then usually around 1 o'clock, we send out an email saying, here's what we got so far. We have an interview with this person, that person, waiting on this agency to get back to us with a statement. And then usually I'm in the 4 o'clock. If you're in the 4, that means you're either in the 5:30 and the 6. So every day is 2 packages. If you're live at 5, you leave something for the 7 p.m. show. And so that's kind of it. Yeah. If it is a crazy day where you're going wall to wall with coverage of a big event. We had that subway shooting a couple months ago. Then you kind of just have to be on your toes and be ready to go live with wherever you are. But we haven't had those days in a couple of months. So so yeah, that's basically my day. And somewhere in there, I need to find a place to eat and use the restroom. So it can be a challenge. You're out in the field and it's just like, sometimes you're lucky and you find a Starbucks, and other days you're just like asking the bodega guy, please, man, here's $1. Can I use your bathroom? So, yeah.
Well, like I said, very adaptable, a lot of things, and you have to be kind of resourceful, right? So
Yeah.
I even saw the story from the other day, I believe, right, with the turnstile. I think that was in Midtown. Was that a recent story that you covered?
Probably. And that's the other thing. These stories all like mesh together. Turnstile. Oh, that was in Queens. That was in Rego Park. The turnstile attack. Yeah, that was Queens. Yeah.
So going all over the city, and then I'm sure you become an expert in knowing the entire city and all the boroughs. How important was Brooklyn College to your career development?
I needed a diploma, so there you go. That's where Brooklyn College came in pretty handy. I think more than anything, it was affordable. The fact that you guys are getting this amazing education and you're not paying the NYU Columbia price for it, that's great. And that's really was my approach to it. Like, I have to just get my classes done so I can intern and get that job. So I value Brooklyn College for giving me that structure, giving me that flexibility. And I think Dr. Barbara Nevins-Taylor, I don't think she's with you guys anymore, but she was amazing. She was a Fox 5 reporter. She was in the game for 30 years. So she just gave it to you straight, just pointed out. She gave you great constructive criticism. And she just was an amazing person. This reminds me, I should reach out to her and be like, hey, what's up? Because she was great. But yeah, just if you find, I don't know the faculty right now, but if you find those teachers that have that experience, just ask them questions, and who knows, they might still have connections. They might still have connections in the industry. But Dr. Barbara Nevins-Taylor was definitely the person for me, and she was amazing. She made us better, and she gave me that constructive criticism when I needed it, because I thought I was, I thought I knew it all. I was like, I've been at every station, I've interned, but no, she was like, no, Melissa, this is what you need to work on. So sometimes you need to hear that. But yeah, no, she was great. She was amazing. She was the one that I definitely remember from that time. And just, again, you're in New York, you guys. There's so many opportunities here. And I think like in real estate, it's location. Look at where you are. And so, yeah, take all the opportunities you can that are made available to you and just run with it.
That's a very good point. Yeah. She was definitely one of the professors that students over the years, definitely spoke highly of. I'm not sure if she's still here or not, but I do know that she definitely made an impact on many students because I'd always hear her name. But again, we have so many other professors that are there now still also, MJ Robinson and George Rodman, so many others are fantastic. Sasha, you have a couple of questions, so.
Yes, I do. Hi. What skills would you say should students be focusing on acquiring? Should they join clubs, organizations, scholarships, graduate school, anything like that?
I think now with social media, and I think it also depends on what you guys want to do. Just obviously try to get those followers, that content in a way, or find your voice, I should say. I mean, it really depends on what you want to do. Because I feel like I hear from so many people that it's all social media heavy, and it's true. I mean, at my station, NBC, we've got two great young ladies their job is literally just social media, just doing TikToks, Reels for Instagram, Facebook, Twitter posts, and all that. So I mean, obviously, just familiarizing yourself very well with that, which of course you guys are. I mean, you guys are what, 19, 20? That's what it's part of our DNA now. But I think other skills, just be insistent. If in the case of Katie Tur that I had that relationship with, I was just always there. Like, I remember I was there, I was in the station the day that they killed Osama bin Laden. It was like a big deal, obviously. And so I remember just like everybody and their mother came to the station that day because they had to cut into live broadcasting. And I just remember the news director saying, Melissa, go with Tom Yamas, who's another guy who's doing great things right now, to Times Square. So just put yourself in situations, even if it doesn't pay out, like just be there, put yourself in a place where it's like people are seeing that you're going the extra mile, and somehow opportunities are going to present themselves. But yeah, use that passion that you have now, because you guys are young, because by the time you get to my age, I'm like in my early 30s, like things start getting, the age starts setting in, So just use that passion that you guys have, that youth, that energy, and just go all in with whatever industry you want to get into.
What do you know now that you wish you could have known as a student?
I mean, I think I don't have any regrets. If you know what, this is going to sound really bad. I didn't go to my college graduation. I wish I had gone to my college graduation. I was interning that day. That's how much it was like it was a big thing that Katie had invited me to do. It was like this big story we had worked on, because it was like an investigative thing. And so I didn't go to my college graduation, and that's what I regret. I wish I'd gone to my Brooklyn college graduation. So go to your graduation, guys. That's no one knows that. Well, some people know that. My parents know that, but that's the first time I've actually, yes, I wish I'd gone to my college graduation. That sounds horrible, but it's the truth. Yeah. So maybe, create some boundaries.
Well, I mean, the hustle was real. I mean, you were dedicated and you took the opportunity. So, I mean,
Yeah.
I can see that, and I guess with the pandemic now subsiding, and we can have like in-person graduations. So you guys, when you graduate, you'll have an in-person there at Barclays. What was the preparation process like as an on-air reporter?
I mean, yeah, kind of everything that we've gone through, which is interning. But let's say this is your first day on the job. So I had to make a reel. Maybe that's what you're trying to ask too. And I had to make a reel, which is basically the best stand-ups where I thought I looked good, I sounded great, and whatever I was saying, I was showing and telling. So I had to make a reel. And so the beauty about the internships was you were working with photographers, and if you got on their good side, you would ask them, hey, can you shoot the stand-up for me? So, I remember I asked a lot of the photographers that I worked with, bought them a lot of coffee. Hey, please shoot the stand-up for me. Cause you wanted someone to, you wanted the movement, you wanted someone, and you wanted to, have the mic flag there too. But that's what I did as far as the job goes, and just writing stories. I would take scripts from my internships and just have them at home, and I would read them and I would study them, and because there is a specific way that we write to the ear that is different from the New York Times or the AP. So just studying what these reporters were doing, and that's really what it came down to. And then what else as far as preparation goes? I mean, obviously learning how to put on a lot of concealer, because I got some dark circles, but that's just for the ladies. And I think just figuring out your style. Like my style, I think, is I talk with my face, I talk with my hands. Just look at reporters that, if you're trying to go on air, look at reporters whose style you really like, and you just see their mannerisms, study their mannerisms, and try to use your own personality into it. I think in the beginning, it's tough because you're trying to copy them in a way, but no, just get comfortable, and the more you do it, and I feel like you have to kind of make the big mistakes to kind of get it out of your system and know how to rebound. So that's also another important lesson. If you made a mistake, you flubbed something on air, know how to, okay, that was a mistake, I'm moving on. You got to keep moving on. Don't have the deer in the headlights thing, but that takes time, that takes practice. And trust me, I've screwed up, but you make those mistakes when you're starting off. No one is perfect, but you have to rebound and know how to pick yourself up, and never say that, never, especially if that's not the case. But that's the truth. That's really what it comes down to. Every big reporter who's done amazing things on the network, they've made their mistakes. It just was in smaller markets where people weren't watching. And so, or not a lot of people were watching, I should say. You don't want to commit those mistakes right when you reach the big level, because that's when there's a lot of eyeballs on you and the repercussions are high.
Absolutely. Got to roll with the punches sometimes. So then, another question here: is it possible to be a TV journalist in the United States with an accent? Because I've met with the student; they have English is their second language. So, what are your thoughts on that?
I think so. I think we have a gentleman at our station. His name is Gabby Acevedo. He's Puerto Rican. He's got an accent. It depends. It's subjective. I'm not gonna lie. This is a very subjective industry. And it's going to depend on the general manager, the news director who hires you, if they like you or not. But what makes Gabby Acevedo stand out is he's a hard worker, and the way obviously Spanish is his first language, but he can bounce back between the two. He can do reporting for Telemundo and do reporting for NBC New York as well, very easily. I mean, it's just rapid fire with him. And so, and every time he gets an interview, an exclusive interview, it's his Spanish skills that are really, they're an asset. And that's the way he's able to, really get into the community. I'm bilingual as well. I can do reporting. And that's another big thing. If you guys are Spanish speakers, definitely that is a huge asset nowadays.
Do you agree also that, I mean, again, being multilingual, I mean, I meet with so many students from every, every kind of nationality and things like that. So, I meet with people that are Russian and Chinese and whatnot. So being multilingual, especially in New York City, how diverse that we are, I think that's still a plus also for those that, just speak those other languages as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. When I was in the Bay Area, I mean, we did a lot of Asian hate stories, and it was really difficult for me to get those interviews when a victim was only spoke Mandarin, or was their Vietnamese immigrants, and they just weren't comfortable with someone who didn't speak their language. And so to have that background and to be able to connect with those families, because it is a community in some cases, not all cases. I think things have changed, but they're hesitant to talk on camera. And so if you can make those inroads, and it's because of your language, because of your background, I mean, that's great. That's an asset. And it's not just the Bay Area. I mean, we had the situation in Georgia with Korean women who were targeted in that attack. And yeah, here in New York as well. So it's definitely an asset. And as far as if your accent is you feel like that's going to be problematic, I mean, just continue to work on it. But at the end of the day, I mean, this country's only getting more diverse, and at the end of the day, we're going to need as many multifaceted reporters who can reach out to those communities and get those interviews.
Yeah, that's a very good point. And I just want to mention one last thing about that too. There are programs where they help with accent reduction. So you can think about that. I think here in the college, there definitely was something available in the speech language department. So you may look at that. And there's also the Magner Center. We have something called the BC Smooth Talkers, we're called Smooth Talkers. And that is a public speaking group that meets regularly during the semester. They even met during the pandemic too. And that just helps you kind of be able to present, speak clearly, get your thoughts across, and things like that. Even if you have an accent, doesn't matter, as long as you can kind of communicate what you need to communicate. So please keep those resources in mind. Okay, we have another question here. It's a good question. So being a journalist, do you stay away from watching or reading news when you're not working?
No, I read the New York Times a lot. I love the Daily. Oh my God. This is what I start every day with, or I end every day with. Well, he's changed it now, but this was one I was listening to. It's can you see it? No, maybe. The Daily, it's a podcast. The New York Times, they just did this crazy great one with Herschel Walker. He's the former college football player who's now basically taking Georgia politics by storm. But I love the Daily because in my world, we condense everything. It's a minute 30, it's a minute 15. But what I love about the Daily, about these podcasts, and that's another thing we didn't even talk about, podcast industry, if that's something you guys are into, There's a lot of demand for that. But in this case, yes, I love the daily podcast. It just gives you great context. It gives you all just what you need to know on these big stories. Basically in TV, especially in local news, it's all about time and just making it simple and just giving you guys the who, the what, the when. But this podcast gives you the why, the how did we get here? And that's what I really appreciate. And that takes time, that takes resources. So love the daily podcast, love the New York Times. We read the Post, the daily news, just to kind of skim the articles and see, okay, this is, they do scoop us a lot with, or they're very crime heavy. So, sometimes, I read that. What else do I read? Sometimes I read Vanity Fair, just like their long profiles. I love Last Week Tonight with John Oliver on HBO. I think he's hilarious. I think he's really smart. He's another very smart, but a lot of research in that one. I like Vice News. I watch them on whatever they put on YouTube because I used to have HBO, but now I don't. I try to go for the more 60 Minutes. Have to watch 60 Minutes. It's just storytelling and just reporting at its finest because they have all this money, they have all this time, and they've got the best of the best doing it. So definitely watch 60 Minutes. CBS Sunday Morning, I love. They just do these great profiles and they do these great stories. They did a great story about how Jackson Hole, Wyoming is getting so expensive because all these millionaires are going in there. Kanye bought a ranch out there, and so everybody and their mother's going there, but it's causing an inequality out there. So, but I also like stuff like The Shop. Like, I think that's smart. I think that's great TV. I listen and I watch as much as whatever I can, but it's not always hard news. But I do gravitate towards that, like a good documentary on Netflix. I'll just sit down and eat it up. But yeah, a little bit of everything.
Does NBC reimburse your travel expenses?
Yes. So I have a corporate card, and basically I just take a bunch of lifts. And so the company takes care of it. So like the other day, I had a really crazy one from Astoria to Fort Lee, New Jersey. But the craziest one I had was from Manhattan all the way to Long Island, but like a crazy beach, like Jones Beach. Like that was a crazy lift. But it's you never know where you're gonna end up. So Lyft is very handy because sometimes the photographer's already on their way, so you just kind of have to meet up with them. So, but yeah, NBC handles that, and it's Lyft or Uber, but mostly Lyft that I take.
That's good to know. Yeah, to get around. And sometimes, again, we have so many subway stations, so many trains, and that they don't actually go everywhere.
But if I'm going to City Hall, for instance, I'm definitely taking the train. There's no way you're going to get stuck in traffic going to the city. So it's just a lot less stressful to just take the train. So.
Yeah. Can you apply for internships as a graduate?
For NBC, I think there's a Page program, which is a great opportunity, the Page program, and you do have to be a college grad, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
But that's a really intense program. I didn't look into it just because I had already interned by then, and I was like, okay. But NBC Page program, they pay you, you get to wear the cute, the gray outfit. But it's an extensive process to get through it, is what my understanding. I've never looked into it, but I think, yeah, it's a very competitive program. And I mean, as far as internships with when you're not receiving college credit, that's a little bit tough because I think companies want to make sure, otherwise you'd be working for free. So companies want to make sure they're dotting all their I's and crossing all their T's and make sure it's legal. So I don't know how that would. You just have to find a company that's willing to give you a job, an entry-level job, if you're not receiving college credit for it. That's where it gets a little bit more difficult. But there's entry-level jobs all the time, whether it's a PA, production assistant, or you're working on the desk. Anything that kind of gets your foot in the door is what you're looking for.
Yeah. And you didn't explore the side of NBC that was on the I guess it's on the entertainment side because there's a question about SNL and Law and Order and things like that. But
I would love tickets to SNL. Megan Thee Stallion was there Saturday. I saw her for like I don't even know if I saw her. I saw her people because she had a bunch of glam folks. I wish I could get tickets to SNL, let alone a job as a writer for SNL. I think you just have to go on the Careers NBC website and search for them. There are definitely there's definitely, yeah, you can be I think you can be an intern for SNL. It's just that I don't know. I don't have the hookup. I wish I had, but I don't know how to get in there. They're on the 9th floor and it looks super cool, but yeah, good luck. I'm sure if you, Google Careers NBC UNI, same thing with Law and Order. You could find some more information, but that's the entertainment entertainment side. My little area is more of the news side, and there's a couple of floors that divide us, but we're all in the same building, so that's what's kind of cool. You kind of intermingle with them, but the Page program could also lead to some opportunities there as well, because we do know that there's the Pages that get to work on Jimmy Fallon and also SNL.
yeah, no, absolutely. I have 2 or 3 students that I've helped over the years get into the Page program. It is intense. It's highly competitive.
Yeah.
One of the students is actually in the program now. I think she's actually ending this week. She's been a part of it since the beginning of the pandemic or halfway through the pandemic. But she
reach out to her. Reach out to her because she's gonna know.
Yeah, Raquel, and she's been on panels before, so we're going to ask to see if she would come back again. She definitely had a lot of information about that. Yeah, and she was able to work on an SNL and Jimmy Fallon, several other channels. The Page program, I would just suggest everybody just follow them on Instagram. They announce whenever the applications are open. It is for recent grads. So yes, that's a great program. Keep your eye out for that, for sure. Okay. We have a bunch of more questions. I mean, there's a lot of really great questions here. It's great. When you conduct interviews with people who are difficult, maybe you think that they're lying, how do you handle that situation? Or how do you handle like difficult interviews?
That's a great question, Sanders. Love that question. Okay. So there's varying levels of difficulty. One difficult interview is when it's an emotional story, in the sense of a mother who just lost her child, and you can just tell from the body language that they don't want to do it, but they're feeling that they're like, okay, you ask them to do it. And so just asking them so plainly as, how are you feeling right now? Who was he? Explain to us, who was your son, or who was his loved member that just tragically passed away? And just a lot of it's people skills, just picking up on social cues, and just keeping the questions really simple and specific. Now, let's say it's a politician or somebody who who is giving you a canned response, like, we can't talk about that. That's all part of the investigation. Well, that's more authorities. But let's say it's somebody that, a lawyer, an attorney, or someone that maybe they're trying to protect their client. The more direct you are, the more simple and direct that question is, the harder it is for them to kind of shy away from it. And there has to be a level of confidence and knowing what the story is about for you to pick up on those details. And you probably heard about this before, but just listen, listen as much. Sometimes people drop little nuggets of information in their answer that doesn't specifically go to what you're initially asking, but just, interrupt them and say, wait, what did you just say? Can you expand on that? What did you mean by what you just said? Because sometimes, people kind of drop these little nuggets of truth where you can not catch them, but listen in on that and pinpoint that and just allow them to expand on that. So yeah, it's not easy, especially when you're dealing with an attorney who's really good at fielding those questions. It can be tough to get them. But you kind of have to know the story really well and push back. Don't be afraid to kind of push back on saying, like, really, if they say something that's just kind of outlandish, and say, come on, do you really expect us to believe that? Or just kind of push back a little bit. Why would you do that? Why? Sometimes the most simple and direct questions are the toughest for them to kind of meander away from. But but yeah, I think, you know, and sometimes in the case of, let's say, police officers who, or the prosecutor's office who can't legally provide more information, you kind of just try and get what little tidbits you can that are going to be helpful for the story, because it is true that there are some things they cannot say on camera, because it might jeopardize the investigation. So you know, every situation is a little bit different, but yeah, don't be afraid to push back. Don't be afraid to be that person who's like, wait, explain that again. What? Even if, you know, you're afraid that it might, you know, you're kind of putting yourself, casting yourself in a different light. Don't be afraid to push back is really the message I got going there.
Do you have any tips on how to effectively network in the media industry, which you kind of talked about that, but do you have anything else to add to that?
Yeah, I mean, get people's numbers. Although now with Instagram and DMing, I feel like DMing is what everyone prefers. Just don't be afraid to DM people. Don't be afraid to, hey, love your work. Would love to catch up over coffee. You know, I've done that. I'm still doing that with people that I really look up to on the network level. Yeah, and go to. There's a lot of events, especially now with things are kind of getting back to normal. There's a lot of like networking events nowadays. You know, and there's a lot of events happening. You just kind of have to look for them. There's a lot of great organizations. The Center for Communications, I think, keeps sending me emails about great events. So just show up and you know, if there's digital cards that you can pass around now, so people have your information. But I think if you're able to reach out to them on social media, that's honestly the easiest way for everybody, because trust me, all our email inboxes are clogged. But if you DM me, that will be, or Twitter DM me or something along those lines, that little pop up, I'll see that. I'll see that. And yeah, because sometimes, I mean, I preferably if you can DM me, that's great. If emailing is also great, but just know that you are going to get lost in the chamber of thousands and thousands of emails we get that are work related. So, but yeah, everyone's different. But absolutely take advantage of all these networking events that are going on out there.
Yeah, you read my mind. Center for Communication, absolutely. Really great resource. We actually have a couple of alum that actually work at that organization.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, which is really great. And you know, definitely keep that in mind, everybody. Center for Communication. I know that there are 2 upcoming events. One, I think, has to do with diversity in the newsroom, I believe. I think that's coming up maybe next week. Can't say enough about it.
Something that just popped in my head, 92Y, they have great conversations, events with authors, sometimes reporters. Katie Church just did one, well, not just did one, she did it like 2 months ago. But that's a great, they do charge, but sometimes they have great people on their panels, and yeah, that could be another great opportunity for folks. If there's somebody that you really want to learn from, you can meet them. There's always like book signing events and stuff of that nature, but 92Y has a lot of great conversations. Again, they charge, but maybe, you know, if you reach out to them, maybe there's a way to, I don't know if there's a student priced ticket option. But yeah, they're in the city.
If you are older, trying to break in, I guess, to the industry,
right.
I would think that, yeah.
Depends on what you want to do. I mean, I think if you want to be on air, there's no age restriction, but just know that you are going to be, your peers are going to be younger than you. It's especially in these smaller markets, smaller stations. Generally, it's a lot of younger people who are getting, you know, they're getting their experience. So just be aware of that you're going to be with a lot of younger folks, that the veterans might even be your age, the quote unquote veterans, in the sense of people who've been that station the longest. They might be relatively young. So that's really all you need to be aware about. And just know, you know, as we get older, money becomes really important. Benefits become really important. So just know that there might be some sacrifices you have to make, that you might, you know, an opportunity presents itself. It might not be in New York, depending on what you want to do. I don't know specifically what you want to do, but as far as being on camera, you know, you might have to move from here and get those opportunities to kind of get that experience under your belt and market yourself. Yeah, it's definitely not don't think that age is going to hold you back per se, but just know that the people that are going to be your coworkers or colleagues might be younger than you. Yeah. And that your boss might be younger than you as well, or your age or just slightly older. So it's just stuff of that nature.
I think they asked about how long you had been news anchoring or how, I don't know.
Technically, I'm not an anchor, I'm a reporter. So anchors are the ones that are on the desk. I have been in the business since, my God, do you know when I graduated from Brooklyn College for the 2011? Yeah, I think it was 2011, right? I don't know.
I think it is, yeah.
2011. Okay, so yeah, do the math.
Yeah.
Do the math. It's been a while. I've been at it for a while. But you know, it's great to be home. And I think nowadays you don't have to travel as much as I did to make it back to New York, depending on how much connections you can make. But I loved all the time I spent away from New York because it gave me a better understanding of how this big country of ours functions and the different cultures that are out here, and just politically and yeah, there's people that I connected with that I would never have thought that we had a lot of similarities if I had stayed all my life here in New York. So yeah, I appreciate that time that I spent away from here, but it's great to be back. It's great to be covering city that raised me, and yeah, there's nothing better than hearing a bunch of Bad Bunny being blasted right in the middle of your live shot. It's just only in New York, only in the Bronx and Brooklyn and Queens. But yeah.
Well, I mean, yes, having that option open for sure, right, to leave the market and go somewhere, but then coming back too. So yeah. I know that there's a question. I don't think you cover this in terms of sports, or maybe you have covered a variety of topics, but I know that Jordan is asking any tips about sports journalists. Maybe you know. Yeah,
I mean, I don't know a whole lot about it, but what I can tell you is that definitely right now, a lot of stations in the middle of the country are cutting their sports departments, unfortunately. But where I think there's a lot of opportunities is with sports teams themselves. If you can join a small, it could be MLS or women's teams, depending on, it doesn't matter, but like there's a lot of smaller teams that are now hiring for their own on-camera host people to make packages that are really just advertising for the team, but that's still almost sports reporting in a way. And so that's how I've seen a lot of people navigate that now. Instead of having to go all the way to Madison, Wisconsin, or what have you, you don't necessarily have to do that. You just have to find a team that is putting the money forward. Hey, we want to have someone to do, on-air hosting, to go to games and talk to fans and put all this stuff together. That is becoming a way that I'm seeing of people who want to be sports journalists, using that as a way to then get into the ESPNs of the world, or Yes Network, or what have you. That is something that I've been seeing. So definitely look into that. If there's any smaller teams, you might have to travel, you might have to move from New York, but you don't have to necessarily go to the middle of nowhere, get a job that pays you $15 an hour. If you look for organizations that are on the come up, there's a lot of soccer teams now, or minor league baseball, and that's a really interesting opportunity that, yeah, definitely worth pursuing.
And if I could just, sorry, Sasha, just if I could mention something really quick about the sports. We just put up an internship. We actually got an internship opportunity. It's the fall 2022 CUNY New York Yankees internship opportunity. We just put it here on this Google Doc. So Jordan, check that out. I know, David, you have an interest in sports too. I think I probably shared that around a little bit. Guys, check that out and get those alerts on LinkedIn too, because sometimes if you're following some of these sports teams or some of the organizations that do cover sports and whatnot, like get those notifications. So check that out there for sure. Go ahead, Sasha, sorry.
Somebody asked, how do you manage the fast changing day-to-day news cycle? Like, do you have a to-do list? How do you do that?
Caffeine, which I need more of right now. How do I manage it? I think it comes with experience and just knowing that things can always, just being prepared that you might, the story that you've been working on, don't fall too in love with it, or if you feel like, what, I've gotten these amazing interviews, you have to fight for it. If your manager says, what, we're moving you to a different story. But I think just always being flexible. You have to be flexible. Just understand that even though the story that you've been working on for the last, I don't know, 4 hours, you've been making all these calls, sending out all these emails, just know that all that work could be gone and you're moving on to the next big thing because it's a breaker. It's a big breaking news story. So just being flexible, and time management, I have to log my interviews, and I'm just very insistent that as soon as we have downtime, as soon as we kind of have everything done, I start logging because, and then this is something that Care 11 kind of trained me to do, is just, you want to find the moments in an interview that might be, that are just kind of like human moments in like gnats and what have you. But just, I try to log my interviews as quickly as possible, because from there I can figure out, all right, this is the story this is the framework that I'm looking for. But I kind of need to see the log in order for me to figure that out. But then there are days where, like, I had another one where it was just, here's the interview and get a package done in an hour while you're on the way. So just, a lot of multitasking. And being able to do things quickly. You just have to know when time management is a big thing, but that's over years of doing this. So you kind of figure out your schedule and how that works. But just be prepared for the inevitable or just some crazy stuff to happen. I think that comes with the job though, because you never know what's going to happen. You never know what your story is going to be. And so you just have to be flexible and willing to roll with the punches.
That's really great. A lot of really great advice here. We're winding down. We have maybe 2 more questions to ask, 2, maybe 3, as we kind of close the session with Melissa. So again, thank you so much. Somebody's asking about pursuing a master's degree. Do you have any thoughts on master's degree?
Good luck. I think it's valuable. I think it's great. If teaching is what you want to do, definitely do that. I think it depends on what you want to do with it. If you can juggle that, that's amazing. Good luck. No, honestly, that's amazing. I'm proud of you for considering it. And if you continue with it, awesome. But it's something that I would look into if I wanted to go more of the public information officer role, and I wanted to go into more of the behind the scenes kind of stuff and managing people, and that's a big thing that big companies are going to require. Once you earn that, there will be a little bit more bump in your pay, so that's great. And also teaching as well. But it is a great, you got to always have a plan B in this industry, I'll tell you that. And I think having a graduate degree under your belt, that's only going to fortify you and strengthen for what might come, because this industry, there's always going to be changes. You never know, as far as if they keep saying we're in a recession or we're going into a global recession, this just makes you more of a valuable employee. So absolutely, it's a great thing to have. But know that it comes with sacrifices, and that is if you can juggle everything in classes with the job. Then absolutely, if you're prepared for that, then great. But yeah, it's only going to solidify you for the future, for sure. In regards to reporting the harder stories with secret or harder to get details, do you fear having to conform with having little, or do years of experience teach you to be okay with not having enough? I think that's a good question. I think what I'm reading here is, what happens when you don't have a whole lot, but you got to go live anyway? Like the details are hard to get. This is what I deal with all the time, because having been away from New York, I don't have a whole lot of sources, because it's been a while since I've been back here. So you have to be transparent, just say, we're waiting on calls from the NYPD. We don't know exactly who police are searching for. Just be transparent. But just what I go off of is just, if I know the neighborhood well, just describe the neighborhood where this thing, whatever I'm reporting on, happened. And I think just try and get as much information you can from the witnesses that are there. And it's okay to be transparent about things you don't know. What's harder is when everybody else has all the secret information and you're the only one who doesn't have this information. And that's all has to do with sources, but that comes with time. And in my station, thankfully, we've got a lot of great people who have these sources, and they're able to help me out. So But yes, as far as this question goes, it's okay if you don't have quote unquote enough. Just use what you can, because at the end of the day, what you have to do is just get on air. And it's okay to be transparent, because it's the truth. We don't know this yet, but we're hoping to find out soon at this press conference that starts in half an hour. So there are ways to elongate the details that you do have. And that hopefully that buys you time. But that's a great question, Alex.
Okay, great. Okay, so we have two more questions. So one is, how long did it take for you to get a job in journalism after you graduated in 2011?
I got lucky. I was in, I put my reels on YouTube. I kept putting my reels on YouTube. And there was one day I got a call out of the middle of nowhere from someone who had seen the reel that reached out to me because I had my number on it, which I don't know if you should do. I don't know if I did that back then. I don't know if I would do it again. But he called, literally I had uploaded it. I got a call within a half an hour. And that was a guy named Dave Manny from WPIX, Pix 11. And he was like, hey, like your reel, why don't you come on and do some stuff with us? Now that wasn't, so I technically, I MMJ'd, I was a reporter with them for 2 weeks, but because I was so green, I kid you not, I was just out of college. I didn't know what I was doing, but it gave me, I still made air. The shot was horrible. The audio was horrible too, because I just didn't know what I was doing. But he saw the potential in me. And because of that experience, I was able to put Pix 11 reporter. And I think that's what got News 12 Westchester attention. So I think, so it happened within, I don't know, maybe a month. It was really quickly that I was able to get that job. But it's just crazy how life works. I uploaded that video to YouTube. Pix 11 called me. I wasn't good enough for Pix, understandably, because I just didn't know what the hell I was doing. But News 12 Westchester was like, come on. And I had gotten rejected from News 12 Brooklyn, which is funny because Brooklyn, they MMJ, and Westchester, they had photographers. So that was a blessing in disguise in a way. And so kismet. I mean, things just crazy things happen, but not a lot of time I had to wait. It was about a month or so.
Sanders asked, how do news networks handle making sure to have diverse topics being reported? There's often talk about certain communities not getting enough attention.
That's a great question. So things are changing now. I think also George Floyd changed a lot of things. And I think it's a lot of stations started hiring more diverse reporters, more reporters from different backgrounds, different ethnicities. And so there is this big push of these reporters now saying, we need to tell these stories. And so I think it starts with the hiring. And from there, these networks are hearing from different voices, different perspectives, and obviously different communities they can tap in. So that's how the networks, at least I can only speak for NBC News, but I'm also seeing that on ABC News as well, where they're hiring people from different backgrounds. And yeah, it's not the typical blonde reporter in Omaha, Nebraska. We're seeing the Morgan Radfords of the world, and other great reporters who are doing great things. But Morgan Radford, she does an amazing job at NBC News. And Vicki Wen, she came from my former station, NBC Bay Area. She's also doing some great work. But yeah, no, I think the more, if you hire people that have these different backgrounds, they're going to bring you different stories, and they're able to access those communities a lot better than someone who doesn't have that background, doesn't have that knowledge. So yeah, but it starts with hiring, and then that's really up to the networks. And I think they've gotten that criticism that they need to hire from people from different backgrounds, who can share those stories.
Great. All right, so we only have just a few minutes. I have a final question, which is, any final advice for everybody that's here? Any final advice that you'd want to give them as they go off?
Yeah, intern. I don't know how many times I've said intern throughout this conversation, but yeah, I intern away. And definitely, I think if in your class you can pinpoint the students that are just as passionate as you are. You know who they are. If they're going the extra mile, staying in the lab longer, making sure they're everything is picture perfect, those are the people you want to gravitate towards you, because you guys will build yourselves up some way, and you guys will like exchange information, exchange networking opportunities, really align yourself with the people in your classes that you see are giving a damn and really want to make it far in whatever industry you guys choose, because that you guys will feed off that passion. And so that's another big thing that I enjoyed about Brooklyn College for sure. And just seek out those opportunities. I mean, I know that the media landscape is changing. Not everyone wants to do what I'm doing right now, because quite frankly, I don't know where the TV industry is going to be in 10 years. Like, I don't know where it is. It's a bit questionable, but for sure we are moving into the streaming world. Everything is digital now. And so there are definitely opportunities. I think if you guys can stay a couple steps ahead of that and just see where the jobs are going to be, that's great. And just always be flexible, and reach out to me, DM me on Insta. And I'll answer any questions, see what I can do on my end. But yeah, no, you guys are in a great place. You guys are getting an amazing education. And again, you're in the media capital of the world. There are so many opportunities out there. And yeah.
Thank you so much. Absolutely. Thank you everybody for being here. Thank you so much, Melissa. That was such amazing advice. A lot of really great wealth of knowledge.
Okay.
I mean,
I'm an open book. Sometimes I say things that I shouldn't be saying, but I also think that, listen, I mean, in this, especially with you guys getting into this industry as it is, which is, it's very difficult sometimes. I'm an open book. I'm willing to just be very upfront and obvious about certain things that maybe some people might shy away from, because it takes a lot of sacrifice, and it's not, this isn't finance, this isn't like we're trying to break into Goldman Sachs. Like, the money, if that's what you're looking for stability wise, it takes a while to get there, and there's a lot of sacrifices that need to be made. But it's a fun job. It's an exciting job. It keeps me on my toes all the time. I meet people that I never expected to meet. New Year's, I'm gonna be working New Year's Eve, and I'm gonna do the ball drop, which as a New Yorker, you don't go to Times Square on New Year's Eve like this.
right.
But I'm gonna have that experience, and thankfully, hopefully, there's a porta potty up there in the scaffolding. But and it doesn't rain or is really, really cold. But those are experiences that I don't think I would have ever had thanks to this crazy job that I became passionate about many, many years ago when I was your age. And now we're here. But every day some days are a grind, but every day you're just hustling, and you kind of have to keep at it because you just never know what's going to happen. You never know where you're going to go. But yeah.